I saved my grandson's life with a newspaper column that destroyed my reputation. And today he won't even look at me across the Thanksgiving dinner table. The silence in my daughter's dining room is thick enough to cut with a knife. 14 family. Members gathered for turkey and stuffing, but nobody's talking to the man who spent 30 years as the most respected veteran in Millfield, Ohio until last month when I published The Hard Truths Our Military Won't Face in the local paper. Dad, my daughter Susan finally says, maybe you should explain to Tyler why you wrote that article. Tyler, my 17-year-old grandson who's been planning to join the Marines since he was 12, stares at his mashed potatoes like they hold the secrets of the universe. 3 weeks ago, he worshipped me. Today, he won't make eye contact. There's nothing to explain, Tyler mutters. Grandpa thinks the military is a bunch of murderers and baby killers. His words, not mine. That's not what I said. You called modern soldiers undertrained, overstressed, and dangerous to themselves and others. You said the military was sending kids to die because politicians are too cowardly to admit we can't win wars with good intentions. Every word is accurate. I did write those things. But the context, the reason I wrote them, is something I can't explain without revealing classified information that could get people hurt. Tyler, sometimes the truth is more complicated than bullshit. He throws down his fork, the first time I've ever heard him swear in front of the family. You spent my whole life telling me about honor and duty and serving something bigger than yourself. Now, 3 months before I graduate, you write this hit piece on everything you taught me to believe in? The hit piece. That's what the veterans of foreign wars post called it when they revoked my membership. That's what the high school principal called it when she canceled my annual Veterans Day speech. That's what half the town calls it when they see me at the grocery store and suddenly find something fascinating about the cereal aisle. But Tyler doesn't know about the phone call I received 2 days before I wrote that column. The call from Captain Jessica Morrison at Fort Bragg, my old friend's daughter, voice shaking as she described what she was seeing in her unit. Mr. Henderson, I need advice from someone who's been where I am. We have soldiers who haven't slept in weeks, who are taking unauthorized medications, who are talking about settling scores with officers they blame for losing friends overseas. I'm afraid someone's going to do something irreversible. I can't tell Tyler about that call without betraying Morrison's trust. I can't explain that my hit piece was actually a desperate attempt to draw attention to problems I've been watching build for years, PTSD cases that aren't being treated, disciplinary issues that are being covered up, warning signs that everyone in command is ignoring. Grandpa, just tell me one thing, Tyler says, finally looking at me directly. Do you still believe in what we do? Do you still think military service matters? The question cuts deeper than he knows. Of course, I believe in military service. One spent 22 years in the Army, 3 tours in Vietnam, 2 in Iraq. I've buried friends, carried wounded soldiers to safety, made decisions that saved lives and cost lives in equal measure. But I also know that believing in military service and believing in military leadership aren't the same thing. I know that sometimes the greatest act of patriotism is calling out the failures of people who send others to fight and die. Tyler, I believe in military service more than almost anything else in this world. But I also believe that good soldiers deserve good leadership, proper training, and honest support from the people who send them into harm's way. Then why did you write that article? Why did you make us all look like monsters? Before I can answer, my phone buzzes with a text message. Unknown number, but the message makes my blood run cold. Thank you. Your article saved lives. J. Moon. Captain Morrison. Something happened at Fort Bragg. Excuse me, I say, stepping into the kitchen to call her back. Mr. Henderson? Her voice is different now, relieved, grateful, alive with an energy that wasn't there 3 weeks ago. Jessica, What happened? Your article. It got shared on military social media, sparked discussions in barracks and mess halls across the country. Officers started paying attention to warning signs they'd been ignoring. And we prevented 3 potential incidents. A soldier in my unit was planning to harm his squad leader. Another base had a service member stockpiling weapons in his barracks. A third situation involved someone who was going to target a recruitment center. My legs go weak. I lean against the kitchen counter, processing what she's telling me. All 3 were stopped because your article created conversations that hadn't been happening. Soldiers started talking to chaplains. Officers started taking mental health seriously. Commanders started recognizing the signs of potential violence. You're sure, Mr. Henderson? I can't give you details over the phone, but yes, your willingness to be unpopular, to take heat from your own community, prevented tragedies that would have destroyed families and damaged the military's reputation far worse than any newspaper column ever could. I hang up and return to the dining room where my family is still waiting for an explanation I can't give them. At least, not the complete truth. Tyler, there's something I need to tell you about that article. What? I wrote it because I was afraid. Afraid that young soldiers like you were going to join a military that wasn't prepared to take care of them. Afraid that the problems I was seeing weren't being addressed by people in positions to fix them. What problems? I think about Captain Morrison's call, about the warning signs she described, about the potential for violence that was building in units across the country. PTSD that goes untreated. Leadership that's more concerned with career advancement than soldier welfare. Training that prepares people to fight wars, but not to come home from them. Tyler is listening now, really listening for the first time in 3 weeks. I wrote that article not to attack the military, but to force conversations that weren't happening, to make people pay attention to problems that were being ignored. But why didn't you just work through proper channels? Why go to the newspaper? Because proper channels had failed. Because people were going to get hurt if something didn't change. Because sometimes being a good soldier means being willing to take unpopular stands for the greater good. My phone buzzes again. This time, it's a call from the high school principal. Mr. Henderson, this is Principal Martinez. I want to apologize for canceling your Veterans Day speech. We received some new information about your recent article, and, well, we'd like to invite you back. What kind of new information? A letter from Fort Bragg, explaining the context of your newspaper column. Apparently, your article contributed to preventing several serious incidents on military bases. The letter is signed by a general, requesting that we recognize your continued service to military families. I look around the dining room at my family, at Tyler, who's been listening to my side of the phone conversation with growing interest. Principal Martinez, I appreciate the invitation, but I think my grandson Tyler might be a better choice for this year's speech. He's joining the Marines in 6 months, and he understands better than I do what it means to serve in today's military. After I hang up, Tyler stares at me with a mixture of confusion and respect. Grandpa, what was that about? That was about the fact that sometimes doing the right thing looks like doing the wrong thing, until people understand the full context. Over the next hour, I explain what I can about the phone calls, the concerns, the desperate need to create conversations about military mental health and leadership accountability. I can't reveal classified details, but I can help Tyler understand that my article wasn't an attack on the military. It was an attempt to protect it. So you wrote that column to help soldiers, not hurt them? I wrote that column because I love the military too much to watch it destroy itself from the inside. Because I love young people like you too much to let them enter a system that might not be prepared to take care of them. Tyler is quiet for a long moment, processing everything he's heard. Grandpa, will you help me prepare for my Veterans Day speech? What do you want to say? I want to talk about the difference between supporting the military and supporting military personnel, about how sometimes the most patriotic thing you can do is demand better from the institutions you love. 3 weeks later, I'm sitting in the back of the high school auditorium, listening to my grandson deliver a speech about military service that incorporates lessons from my controversial article. He talks about honor and duty, but also about accountability and mental health. He discusses the importance of serving something bigger than yourself, but also the importance of leaders who serve something bigger than their own careers. The audience, parents, students, local officials who 3 weeks ago wanted nothing to do with me, gives him a standing ovation. Afterward, Principal Martinez approaches me in the parking lot. Mr. Henderson, I owe you an apology. When I first read your article, I thought you were attacking everything we stand for. I didn't understand you were trying to protect it. Most people didn't understand. That's okay. Would you consider speaking to our staff about recognizing warning signs in students who might be struggling? Tyler's speech made me realize we might not be as prepared as we should be to help kids who are dealing with trauma or stress. I think about Captain Morrison's call, about the soldiers she was worried about the conversations that needed to happen but weren't happening. I'd be honored. As I drive home, I pass the VFW post where my membership was revoked last month. The parking lot is full. The monthly meeting just ended. Several veterans I've known for decades are standing by their cars, talking. I pull over, not sure what reception I'll get. Henderson, calls out Ton Rodriguez, a Vietnam vet who hasn't spoken to me since the article was published. We need to talk. I brace myself for another confrontation. We got a call from the Veterans Administration today. They want to implement a program based on your newspaper article, peer counseling, mental health awareness, leadership accountability. They're asking VFW posts to help identify veterans who might be struggling. And we voted to reinstate your membership. Turns out your hit piece is being used as a training document at military bases across the country. Rodriguez hands me a letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs, thanking me for highlighting critical issues and requesting assistance in developing programs to address them. Tom, I never wanted to attack the military. I just wanted to help it. We know that now. Question is, will you help us figure out how to implement these programs in our community? 6 months later, Tyler graduates from high school and ships out to Marine Corps boot camp. The night before he leaves, we sit on my back porch, talking about military service and the responsibilities that come with it. Grandpa, I understand now why you wrote that article. Do you? You weren't trying to discourage me from joining the military. You were trying to make sure the military I joined would be worthy of the sacrifice. The military has always been worthy, Tyler, but institutions are only as good as the people who lead them and the standards they're held to. Will you write me letters while I'm at boot camp? Every week. Will you tell me the truth about what military service is really like? Not just the heroic stuff, but the hard stuff too? I think about all the letters I'll write over the next 13 weeks, about the truths I'll share and the wisdom I'll try to pass on, about the importance of serving with honor while also demanding accountability from those in command. Tyler, I'll tell you everything I know about being a good soldier in an imperfect system, about serving something bigger than yourself while also taking care of the people who serve alongside you. As Tyler heads inside to finish packing, I reflect on the past 6 months, the controversy, the ostracism, the slow realization by my community that sometimes the most difficult truths are the most necessary ones. My newspaper column didn't make me popular, but it started conversations that needed to happen, prevented tragedies that could have destroyed lives, and reminded people that loving the military means holding it accountable to its highest ideals. Sometimes, the greatest act of patriotism is being willing to be unpopular for the right reasons. Sometimes protecting the things you love requires being willing to criticize them. And sometimes saving lives requires risking your reputation. I never told Tyler that Captain Morrison's original call was about him specifically, that she'd seen his social media posts, recognized warning signs in his online activity, and was concerned that a young man planning to join the Marines might be struggling with issues that could put himself and others at risk. My controversial article wasn't just about military mental health in general. It was about my grandson specifically, and my desperate attempt to create awareness that might help him and others like him get the support they needed. The conversations my column started didn't just prevent incidents at military bases. They helped identify and assist young people in my own community who are struggling with depression, anger, and thoughts of violence. Tyler never knew that my willingness to be canceled by my own town was actually the most targeted act of love I've ever performed. A grandfather using his reputation as currency to buy his grandson's safety, even if it meant that grandson might hate him for it. Sometimes love looks like betrayal until you understand the full context. And sometimes saving someone's life requires them to think you're trying to destroy their dreams.